the most thought-provoking hour of the day, dropping jewels and nuggets for the next 60 minutes. For us, by us. You're listening to the Hold Your Point podcast.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Peace to the planet. We hope we're finding you in good spirits wherever we're finding you at right now. This is the Hold Your Point podcast, and we are the Hold Your Point podcast crew. And on our platform, man, we talk about Black culture and experience from a Christian and millennial perspective. And we got the usual suspects in the house, but we got some very special guests also in the building. And we're going to take a few seconds to go around. We're going to ask everybody to introduce yourself. If you wouldn't mind giving us your name and a little bit of what you do professionally. And then we're going to, take off into a very tantalizing Thursday from there. So, Kashana, if you want to go ahead and start us off, give us a little bit about yourself, what you do.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Kashana Rose. I am a self-love coach. I help women to love on themselves and to realign with the best version of who God has called them.
Love it.
Thanks for having me.
I need some self-love.
Got. If you don't love yourself, who's gonna love you?
That part.
That's right. Welcome back. Doctor, if you'd like to serenade us with a little bit of who you are and what you do.
Are you talking about me?
Oh, come on, man.
I don't know.
Shy.
So my name is Wilja. I'm a nurse practitioner. I have my doctorate degree in nursing. Right now I'm working in an urgent care /primary care office, but soon we'll be starting in the hospital.
That's right.
Thank you for your services.
Welcome back. We got Miss Ludini. Am I saying your name correctly?
It's Ludney, but you guys can call me Ludi.
Ludi. Okay. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Welcome. Meeting you guys. I'm Ludney. At the moment, I'm working as a nurse on a postpartum unit, but I just became a nurse practitioner and a midwife. So,
wow. Nice.
I work with women. I love working with women. That's my passion. So I'm very happy to be here today.
Welcome.
Glad to have you. Welcome.
Glad to have you.
And we have Miss Grace.
Hey y'all, I'm Grace. I currently am working from home as a compliance supervisor. I just graduated college with my bachelor's degree.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. And I have 4 crazy children at home, so my life is never full.
Wow.
What a blessing.
Blessings.
Yeah.
I wouldn't guess you older than 16. 4 kids?
1 of 4, just like you, David?
Only 3 are mine.
Okay. Hey, that's still a handful though.
4.
That's what's up, man. So how was everybody's week? We going around. Another day above the surface. Thank God. Breathing this good fresh air.
DTA shaking his head. What's happening, man?
Man, today was not a great day. I'm not going to take too long, I work in finance for people who may not be aware. And every month you go through a closing process with the accounting and team and then finance. And that's when we kind of jump on our work. So they told us we were closed yesterday. And then come to find out today, they made a mistake with something. They got to reopen the books and make an adjustment. But the thing is, they told us that yesterday at like noon. So I did a whole bunch of work. Like I jumped on all the things I had to do. Come to find out there's this mistake. So now I have to redo these things because the numbers won't be right if I go with what I had done. So I'm like, it's just a pain to have to go through this stuff again. So tomorrow, unfortunately, I was hoping Friday would be pretty chill, but looks like it's going to be a little hectic. But aside from that,
Sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah, well, we all have our lot in life, right? So
that is right.
That's mine.
That's right.
But other than that, though, I got to give God thanks. Everything's copacetic as always, man.
100%.
Amen to that. Hey, well, for one man's trash, another person's treasure. My week was a blast, I would say. I'm just coming off a flight from Atlanta. I was at a wedding for a cousin. You already know, dirty South. But so yeah, I was at a cousin's wedding, but just enjoyed that, and then I just took some time off. You know what I'm saying? Y'all know me, I'm always working. That's the mantra every week. Work. But so I took the week off once, but I just flew back today, so I am quite tired. But I'm here
To
with
the red
y'all.
eye.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But
Okay.
I was looking forward to this, so I just had to know I had to make it. So I actually moved my flight up early to make it.
Oh,
So
praise God. Thank you.
yeah. So I
What
did that. Yeah,
what airlines you took, Levi?
I took Delta.
Oh,
Why,
okay,
why, why
okay.
you
You
Yeah,
all
was
should.
looking
it
at
Man,
me?
you
a
gonna try to save. I know you gonna say something
No,
about
as long as it
Oh
wasn't
man.
Spirit of Frontier, you
Oh
good to
no,
go.
no,
I
no! I
guess.
did Spirit is a once in a lifetime experience, people. That's it. You do it one time and you don't do it again.
Don't be pulling sponsors.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
hey, I'm sorry. You better.
Right?
Man, that's what's up, man.
Ah, man, I'm good, man. Living life. Yesterday I had a birthday, so I'm just glad
Hey,
to see
Happy
another
birthday.
year.
happy birthday, Mike.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Nah, but
Happy
just glad to see you guys.
birthday.
Thank you, Grace. Thank you. Yeah,
You're welcome.
thanks to all the love from everybody as well. I really appreciate that. Just happy to see you guys.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Hey, another spin around the sun, man. That's always a good thing. But I mean,
Well, it's almost
I'm a.
Friday.
It is almost Friday, that's for sure, man. And I'm kind of right there with DTA. It's just like I had a couple instances at work this week where I felt like I wasn't on top of my business, and I take it personally. So I got some extra stuff to do. I try to stack as much as I can on Monday through Thursday, so Fridays is a light day. But
Mhm.
we got some work to do tomorrow. So I'm right there with you, man.
No, I'm off tomorrow.
But
Same
nice, must be nice. All right, man. So we're gonna jump right into it. We got a real special topic that we wanted to jump into, man. As everyone knows, there's been a lot in the news lately. Sometimes you can't pick it apart from one thing to the next, but we understand too that there has been a overruling federally on the position of Roe v. Wade, and the trials and the uphill climbs, that citizens of all shades and colors have had to make in this country to get a lot of different things off the ground, whether it's come equalities or just privileges and things to be able to kind of do for themselves. And here we are in 2022 when we're almost in the season of everybody kind of getting what they want at the table, and we see where this ruling here has kind of been overturned in regards to abortion federally. So I know it's a very serious topic, very touchy for a lot of people. These probably the toughest series of questions that we probably ever had to put together. But by the grace of God, we're gonna deliver.
Yes,
And
sir.
right off the bat, man, I just wanted to ask y'all, like, what is y'all position first on the recent federal ruling or surrounding abortion or the overturning of that?
Don't all go at
Don't be
once.
scared.
Go
I
ahead,
mean, I can
DTH.
start.
Oh,
Oh, sorry. Is it
Go
go
my
ahead.
ahead.
No,
turn?
no,
Go
no.
ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
mean, I feel like we're going back to where we started before women, had rights when it comes to abortion. For me as a woman, I feel like it's oppression for women. It's just a way to oppress women, to make us go back to where women were going to back alley abortions that weren't safe and were dying from, unsafe practice and stuff. So that's how I feel at the moment.
I think
Okay.
we're making America great again.
All right. Let me say I'm kind of thinking from just I guess a governmental perspective, because what you said, how the ruling, right? Like, do I like the fact that the federal government is getting involved? Should it be a state's issue? I would say probably because the nature of this issue. Um, I do think it's good that it's something that's federally decided. I don't know that I necessarily agree with the decision, but um, I don't know if I like the fact that the states are in charge of their own decision regarding this. Just because I feel like some issues should be decided federally and apply, across the country. So I'll leave it there for now.
I agree with what David just said. There is some risk in regards to the new decision because who knows how far they will go. I'm definitely pro-life, not only because of my religious views, but just doing research on how the different stages are when you're pregnant and how a child is developed into a actual person. Um, However, I feel like there should be laws to hold men accountable as well, like the baby daddies.
I
Okay.
see your point
Whoa.
there. I definitely agree as far as holding men accountable. I went through that as a teen mom as well, and it definitely wasn't easy. But I don't feel like a baby's body is up to us to decide whether it has life or not. And I feel God gives and takes life, and we shouldn't have the choice to end it. So I definitely agree with Waldia, if that's your screen name. Definitely making America great again.
Yeah, I was being sarcastic. Sorry. My
Oh,
my sarcasm comes out like serious. That's how you're supposed to serve sarcasm.
I wasn't being sarcastic.
No, I certainly was. Yeah, no, definitely don't think we should make America great. Well, make it great, not anyway.
It's funny y'all
So
bring. Actually, let me
go
jump
ahead,
in.
go ahead, go ahead.
It's funny we bring that point up because the biggest thing, someone who's on very heavy on the political side, I'll just keep it at that. In both for my professional work and my personal life, I just enjoy politics in general. So, as someone who studies politics and has studied history and studied how things go in this country in particular, um, I just think it was a funny thing that, when it was left up to the states, you saw immediately a bunch of trigger laws
Yeah.
from, a couple of what we would call red states.
Mhm.
Just to go back to a political term, red state versus blue state, a red state being a Republican majority. Most people vote Republican in those states versus a Democratic state, and most people vote Democrat. In those cases, those states are called blue states, of course. And so once we go into that, like you think how most of the states that were called red had trigger laws, and it goes back to what is really the purpose behind it. Like, why is it so politically divided in that sense? Like, why is there such a stance on one end versus another end? And then it brings up a choice, it brings up a term that Kashana brought up versus pro-life versus pro-choice, like what does that even mean? Like, if I'm
Mhm.
pro-life, does that mean that, I'm taking the life of the baby over the life of the mother? Like what life am I talking about here? Like let's just asking a quick question to throw back.
Mhm.
I don't feel like there should be titles of pro-life, pro-choice personally.
Hmm.
Because at the end of the day, it comes down to, is it right or wrong? Is it okay to kill somebody? Throw that back at you.
Yeah, and so and I think like there's layers to this cake that we'll end up slicing for sure.
Yeah.
But like I mean, so we got some mixed views, I guess, as far as like what the stance is. But do y'all think like there's any circumstances that should be considered, like when a mother's life may be at risk? Because I know like Biden just recently, I think, signed something like an executive order to say like if a mother's life is at risk, then that would be the time that they can kind of like overrule, so to speak, and kind of step in and save them. But do y'all think that should have been like a part of the decision at all?
For sure. For sure. Oh, DJ, you ain't speaking yet, right? Go ahead.
No, I was gonna agree. Yeah, for sure. I think there is definitely some gray areas in which you'll be okay, which I think you should consider it, right? Aborting. Um, Others may not agree with me, but I think that's one. If somebody's life is in danger, and also like, you know, let's say you had a 11-year-old that's decided to be fast. You know what I'm saying? Out here in these streets, we're just shaking our head, but I don't know. I just think there's certain gray areas such as that because, like, let's say you decided to have your 11-year-old have the kid. Now you're a parent again because now you got to raise this kid and then you got to raise the other kid. But and there's certain instances where I think, yeah, you should definitely consider abortion. But
what if the 11-year-old is not fast, but someone made them fast and they didn't have a choice? So I
you
don't
mean,
think it's like
yeah.
incest or rape, because that's still actually happening right now.
Oh,
So
100%.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's so complicated. It's not just life or death or choice or not choice. I don't think it's personally as a Christian, I don't think I would go and check abortion on the ABCD. I don't think I would choose that for myself. But at the same time, I don't think I have the right to impose my beliefs, my values on other people. Now, do I think that we should allow people to have abortions at 8 months and 9 months? Absolutely not. But there are a lot of circumstances, which I'm sure we'll discuss, that's kind of the only choice. But now you're taking that choice away. So it's like it's just not so simple, speaking from a medical standpoint.
Yeah. Is it worse? I mean, I'm asking the question, but I'm just in my head just thinking 8 or 9 months, that's worse than 2, 3 months in. I understand like the whole concept of why you saying that, but I'm just like, isn't it essentially still the same thing?
I can let the midwife take this one because I took I did take the class, but I don't. It was
I completely agree with Wildia. As a Christian, that's not a choice I would make for myself. But at the same time, who am I to judge somebody that thinks that that's the best choice for them or for their family? I mean, when you're looking at conception versus when you comparing 2 months versus 9 months, there's a big difference, big gap. At 9 months, 8 months, you have a fully developed baby that can hear, that can do certain things that, uh, at 3 months, the organs that you have developed is very different from a baby that's 9 months. Um, so ultimately, it's a personal decision. But to answer your question, yeah, there's a very big difference when you're comparing the 2 months versus 9 months. Yeah, it's not the same at all.
So you guys are completely against abortion at all, regardless of circumstance?
I'm not completely against abortion.
Okay.
I
Okay.
think women
I was
should
just
have the choice to choose what's best for them. I'm saying I
okay.
myself, as a Christian, personally, it's not something that I would choose for myself.
Understood.
As a healthcare provider and as a midwife, when I have this patient that comes to me and tell me that I'm pregnant, I don't know what I want yet. Like we are trainer as midwives and women's health nurse practitioner. When somebody comes in and tells us that they're pregnant, we have to ask them: Is this a wanted pregnancy, planned or unplanned? What are you thinking about doing regarding this pregnancy? My first thought when that patient is in front of me is not to tell them, oh, I don't think you should have that. When that patient comes to me and asking me for those resources, my job and my duty to that patient is to provide them with the resources that they need to make the best choice for themselves, not the choice that matches my values, my morals. It's them first that comes first.
That makes sense. Yep.
All right, let
Makes
me
sense.
hop in here. So to answer Fortunato, you said if there should be any exceptions. For me, I've always thought that rape or medical conditions in which the mother's life is at stake. I've always felt those were the two instances where it should be completely whatever she wants to do is up to her. Now, I don't know about what other cases there might be, but in my mind, I feel like there really aren't any others that I would feel okay with it being done. So, from the law perspective, if they had included those two cases, to me, I would feel like that's probably ideal. Um, Now, is it Ludeni? Ludeni? Sorry,
Lutiny.
Ludeni.
Ludney, you can call me Ludi.
Okay, Ludi, like the Jamaican game, right? Anyway, you mentioned something that I I kind of agree with, but I struggle in a little way because you mentioned how you don't want to impose your beliefs on someone else, which I agree with in principle, right? So I'm also a Christian and have Christian values. I don't think that's an option I would want my significant other to make, since men don't have a say in it at all, which we might talk about a little later. But
Oh, we getting
um,
there.
I would not want her to do that. But I do respect that they have that choice. But at the same time, I I I want us. I would like to live in a world where we have people can choose to do what they want. But at the same time, I think there should be limits. So, for example, people can have guns. I would rather people not go around shooting people, but um, I would like them to have the choice, right? I'm not trying to control everything people do, but at the same time, they can't just go around shooting people. Like there has to be a line drawn because I don't want people just to be killed. And so at the same time, I kind of think of that with this issue where I, I don't want to live in a world where babies are being aborted just for nothing, but I do want women to have the choice, but I don't want that choice to
To be
be
abused.
unchecked. Correct. Because at the same way I made that analogy, like people can't just shoot people. Like, no, that's not okay. So that's something I struggle with um, a bit.
So, I mean,
Oh, Grace
even
got
in
something
that
to say.
regard, right? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Grace. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead, I'll get there.
Well,
All right.
the only thing I was gonna ask, like while we're on this piece, is like because I understand the importance of, you know, saving a life, and if saving a life in multiple ways, because if it's a pregnancy that's unwanted, like obviously the goal is to save, the mother's life who's coming in here to try to navigate through an unwanted pregnancy as best as possible, right? So, so in that regard, it's about saving a life, but is there more precedence, like if we're believers, right, and we're faced with these situations and scenarios, is there more precedence put on saving a life, or should there be more precedence put on saving a soul? Because I mean, I agree, like i don't I don't know exactly where I stand on this whole issue, but I do agree that like women should have a choice, but then at the same time it's like, how do we convey that choice if we're still interested in saving a soul?
So we all feel that we should have free will of our own bodies, right?
Yes.
God gave us free will. God gave us the ability to make our own choices. I agree, 100%. But that baby is not your body. And as far as the Roe versus Wade, I haven't seen a state that passed this law that does not allow medical exemptions. At any point that if you have an ectopic pregnancy or that the mother's life is in danger, then there's nothing that would keep them from performing the procedure to abort the baby. But at that point, if you miscarry, you're not aborting the baby because abortion is killing. But if you miscarry, the baby is gone. Ectopic pregnancy, it is not liable. The baby cannot survive, period, like past 12 or 13 weeks. Correct me. I don't think our OBGYN is in here anymore. But it in those situations, like yes, I agree. It wouldn't it wouldn't make sense to not, get take the bit from the woman's body. But any other situation, no, I don't agree. Because you're still killing somebody. and that's not your choice to make.
I kind of agree with Grace. I mean, because in a sense, and I don't know in no way I can never understand how somebody feels about being raped, but there's a lot of stories of successful people where they were ended up being a raped child, and you know what I'm saying, and like you said, that's a life that's being created. Um, it's as far as it being something that's gonna hurt the patient or hurt the mother, and I definitely feel like that's something that is the only option. But otherwise, from that, I mean, it should be a choice.
Ludi, I seen you was coming off the mic. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Question. Just to clarify, Michael, are you saying that people who are raped shouldn't have a choice? If you could just clarify, I don't think you correctly.
No. I'm not. I ultimately feel like a woman should have a choice, but at the end of the day, it's really like it depends on the situation as far as that. Um, it's, I only agree with kind of with what you know what she's saying as far as like if it's something to do with her health, then yes.
Okay, so when you guys say health, do you guys consider the mental health of the mother a part of that danger to their
Come
health?
on
Because
now, Pastor.
mental health is a very big that's a whole
Huge,
other
huge.
discussion. So do you guys
Yeah,
do not
huge.
consider that? Whoever is saying that when it comes to the mother's health, what about mental health? Because I've
I would
seen it.
say, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
Because I've been witness to what an unwanted pregnancy can do to somebody's mental health. I don't have to go into details just to prevent patients, confidentiality. But what do you guys think when it comes to like mental health?
That's a good. Real quick, let me just jump in. I would say that's a good question
Go
because
ahead and jump, bro. You already jumped. Go ahead.
honestly, I've never thought about that, Ludi. I've always thought about the physical aspect of her actually dying. So that's a great point. I guess the question would be, I don't know if you know the answer or not, but I guess, are these mental issues to the point where they can be driven crazy, or like some type of disorder
Yes, I'm
develops?
sure. I'm sure.
Yes.
Even to the point where they try to commit suicide.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah,
thing with
I
mental
had to.
health, sorry,
Go
I
ahead,
don't want to
Grace.
No,
Go
go
interrupt
ahead,
ahead,
Hold
Grace.
your
anyone.
hold
Go
your
ahead, Grace.
point, Mike. Hold your point.
No, go ahead, Grace. That's
Right.
all great.
Okay.
Yeah.
In my opinion, with mental health, I mean, none of it is fortunate. Like, I would always hate for a woman to, especially, commit suicide. My sister has personally been in and out of different medical hospitals in the past year
Mm.
and a half, and she has two children, and definitely having the children and going through with her pregnancy was a huge part of that. Um, but there's other means of help for mental issues or mental health issues. Like I said, she's been in mental hospitals. There's medication. Um, and there's also biblical and, church, I say events or like trials that you can go through. And it's all about, prayer and faith in God. And it's kind of like a God Christian boot camp that you go through. And it's one thing that we actually still would love for my sister to go through. I feel it'd be very beneficial for her mental health because I know everyone's going to disagree with me, and I'm just going to go ahead and
No, I
say it.
didn't say
But a
that.
lot of mental health, in a sense, is in the mind. And I feel a lot of it can be overcome just by faith and through God, by trusting in God.
Yeah. 100%.
Just to
Well,
piggyback
Hold on,
with
wait,
Grace a
hold
little
on,
bit.
hold
Hold
on.
on, hold
You're
on,
not
wait.
all
You know
done.
I gotta piggyback, man. You know I gotta piggyback. Come on.
no, but real
Look,
Oh,
quick,
like
I had.
go ahead,
can't
Mike.
can't
Well,
can't.
hold on.
Oh
I
my fault.
know. No, go ahead. No, hold your point.
Nah, yeah, I'm saying go ahead because I literally was about to get in, but right
No.
before
I just want to say
DTH.
too, bro. I like once
Wait,
again,
hold
like
on, Mike.
really
Hold on.
take.
Hold on.
No. Well, hold
Damn,
on.
All
be
right.
Yeah,
quiet.
all right.
I just
Wait,
messed with
wait.
you. I just messed with
It takes them finding God first. So you know, what I'm saying there's a lot of situations where women have not been in that. They go through that, but they don't know God. So they have to find God first, and then that's the first step. All right, go ahead. I'm done.
Nah,
Maybe.
this
Now,
ain't
now
this ain't your
Nah,
part of the
you
I was gonna
stop.
pod,
add
but
in. Okay, I was gonna add in just to side with Grace a little bit. Like, how do like there's definitely instances also where an abortion causes the mental illness of somebody. Somebody has this abortion, and that causes them to go crazy because they have thought of them killing
Of
somebody. They have
course, yeah.
they have
The
they have
regret,
They
thought of
regret
them.
that
the
decision.
Exactly, they
regret.
regret that
Yeah.
decision, and that drives them insane. So we got to think about that aspect of it too. Like, if we
hold,
just
Yeah.
allow abortions going willy nilly,
hold
that
on.
could give something
Yeah,
to it.
100%. Now I'll say like I'll put mental health issues right above there to somebody getting raped because last thing you want to do is have somebody who mind ain't right. Because without our minds, what we is nothing.
Nothing.
Without our
Wow.
minds, that's our power. That's where our power come from. So if we ain't got that, why would you want to bring a child into this earth? You know what there's plenty of cases of somebody who done had a child. Next thing you know, the child is missing, and they crying. I can't remember the young lady name. She crying in court saying, "Oh, I ain't killed my, I ain't touching that, whatever."
Oh,
Or
Stacey Casey Anthony or something like that.
whatever her name was. It was in the news big, right?
Hmm.
Or
I
even
know what
some
you're
of these
saying.
people who leave their kids in the car, right? Or even you have some cases where somebody will knock on your doorstep and just leave a kid or whatever. There's so many different cases, and that's because somebody's bringing a life into this world and their mind's not right. Like, and then you're trying to raise a kid like that. Nah, that's to me that's right up there with. I
So
mean,
you
that's the thing about it. You can't test for that,
so
right?
you
You
feel
What's God's purpose in it?
you feel like you're doing the child injustice by bringing them into this
hundred
world.
percent,
I don't know
So
about
wait,
that.
hold on, wait,
So
wait,
bro.
wait,
what
wait,
that
wait,
so
wait, hold
that
on,
child
wait,
can't.
wait a
I'll
minute.
say 100%.
Hold on,
Okay,
cause
it depends
yeah,
how
wait,
loose how
drink
loose
drink a
your
little
mind
bit of
is, though.
water,
Too.
BJ. Drink a
Yeah.
little bit of water. Wills, I think she itching the ear. I know you
Yeah,
burning.
she
Go
trying to
ahead,
go.
Will.
Go ahead.
We're just chilling today.
I've been frozen, so I don't even
Yeah,
know
I seen that.
what's
Yeah.
happening. But I think
I
the Lord
mean,
is closing my
Go
mouth.
ahead, go ahead.
I think. Well, all right. So to kind of move forward just a little bit, like, what do y'all think? Like some of the possible like results would be of thing, or I guess rescinding like this law or this ruling, like where abortion is now illegal. Like, what do y'all think now? Some of the countries' backlash would be because of this.
It's still gonna happen.
Right. It's still gonna happen because people are gonna seek other means,
Yeah. Always gonna
which I
find a
think
way.
Ludi and Willie Wilja are
Hmm.
wary of, that women may seek unhealthy means to still get the abortions performed, which is why not just let them be, why do the rule away. So like I get that aspect of it, but yeah, I mean it's going to continue. um, it's not going away. It's been around forever. It's
Yeah.
not like it's just going to stop.
But it's not
Yeah,
at your
even when
fingertips anymore.
What was that?
Sorry, you go ahead.
No, no, no.
oh,
Ludi.
I was gonna say even when it was illegal before, women were throwing themselves down the stairs to try to abort a baby. So what to say that they're not gonna
Hmm.
go back to those measures?
Drinking vinegar. Yeah.
Yes.
Drinking vinegar. What
You ain't
in
heard
the
about that?
world?
Oh man,
I
Yeah.
ain't
come on.
heard that one.
Drinking all kinds of
Keyshawn heard it.
I
You
ain't
see,
heard
she
that
laughing. She
either.
heard it. You ain't never heard? Oh, come on. I went to a ratchet school, man. So they was doing all sorts of stuff over there. But
Yeah.
no,
No, that's
one
funny.
thing you can't do is you can't stop. I don't want to say progress, but unfortunately, things is going to continue to get worse as time go on, right? Things is going to continue to unravel. What what wasn't done in the past is now going to be the norm moving forward. That's honestly that's just kind of how it goes.
Mm.
I guess in a perfect world, you could at least hope that maybe, and obviously, I'm not talking about the situations of rape and incest, but for young teenagers or anyone outside of marriage, I would hope that they think smarter before making the decisions that they make, because they no longer can just go get an abortion if they accidentally get pregnant.
But like, just to backtrack a little bit, like, because we were talking about mental health, which I think is a big, piece that we probably didn't really consider before. But like, do y'all think like all should have the right to a chance of life? Because I mean, somebody mentioned it before, but like, some of like the best stories sometimes can come out of like the worst beginnings. And so like, I mean, even though sometimes it may put the mother in a very difficult position financially, emotionally, what have you, do y'all think like the child itself like should still have a chance to, you know,
Absolutely. And the thing is, if if an abortion occurs, there's 100% chance that the baby has no chance, right? At least if the kid is born, they have a
I like that.
chance.
Yeah.
So it could be a hard life, but I would think most of us would agree that some life is better than no life. If you have no life, you can't do anything at all. So at least by having a chance, yeah, you may struggle, you may have a rough life. Lots of people do, and you know, especially when we think about this country specifically, the United States, like what we consider rough, like we live in luxury compared to how some people in other countries
Mm-hmm.
live, right? So if you want to talk about that, okay, you have
Most do. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, relatively speaking, so I think life that's the most precious thing we have. Once it's gone, you can't get it back. Um, and I think really it has to do with priorities. So, and I'm not that's not to say what some of the comments that have been tonight are talking about, but I think some of the people who do go through the process of having an abortion think, oh, I'm not going to be able to afford a nice house because of all the payments now. I have to baby, stuff like that. Like that, those kind of thoughts I think are misguided. That's not what life is about, and as far as I'm concerned, especially if you're a Christian. Like I would think Christian people who think that way are not thinking in line with what the Bible talks about. Like we're not here to build up a great life on earth. You endeavor for that, sure, but that's not what the most important thing is. Like the Bible says, uh, what is that scripture in Ecclesiastes? The whole duty of man, fear God and keep his commandments. Like that, that's what we're
Bring the
here for.
word.
Like, we're supposed to be pilgrims on this earth. Like this is not the end all be all. So of course no one wants to go through struggles, but if you're a Christian, I would think you have to align with what the Bible says, and the Bible says this is not what everything's about.
And I
And
think, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Grace.
no, girl, I talk too much. You go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think we're kind of forgetting that there are other options as well. Like, you can consider adoption, and of course, if the mother's mental health is not up to par, of course they're not going to allow the baby to go home with her. But going back on what David said in regards to why a lot of women consider the abortion, I think it goes beyond um, not being able to buy a big house. I feel like, and probably this is going to be controversial, but I feel like a lot of that
I'm
that
here
um,
for it.
decision goes back to men. Like, am I going to have the support? Am I going to have to go back and forth with my baby's father? That plays a big part in the decision. So that's why at the beginning I said that I feel like we should have a law that holds men accountable beyond child support.
so
My
all
two
right. So to that point, then, if we are asking for a law to hold men accountable, right, for their portion in this, should men then have a say so on whether or not like his child is taking the term? Because like a lot of times what we see is like we I mean, just to keep it real, like you'll have men who don't want the child, don't want to be a father, and the mother like will still go through with it, and then now you don't have support, but this man told you from jump like he didn't want to be a father, or like, you might have a mother who doesn't want to have a child, and the father who wants to continue to be a father and raise this child, and the woman is just set on like not having the baby. So like, should a man's opinion matter as far as like the decision making where that is
I,
concerned?
feel like that's kind of sketchy because just to answer one side of it, the woman doesn't want to have a baby, but the man does. How does he know without DNA test that that's his? I mean, that's gonna
What?
be one. No, you have to understand because there's women out there. You no, because
Oh, he talking about
no,
some Maury stuff.
no. Hold on.
Nah, I
And
feel you,
it's
Mike. Go
funny.
ahead.
You're laughing because it's actually a story I know about somebody that same situation, and that was in the court where the judge said, or it was that determined that he could not because it's not proven until the child is born. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, well, I mean, just wild scenarios aside, I'm saying like if this is his child or whatever, and he wants the baby to be born, and she's against it, like, what does a man have a say so in it? Because on the flip side, if he don't want it, y'all gonna put him on child support, and regardless of what he says, like now he has to deal with it.
Oof.
That's exactly what happens
That,
every
that
day.
yeah,
that's
it happens all the
that's
time.
yeah. I mean, that's just wrong from the jump, from literally Jump Street. Y'all shouldn't be having sex with one another because that's where the issue come right there. But no, that's tough. I honestly, I think the man should have a say because like it takes a community to raise a kid anyway.
Yeah.
It's not even just the two of you. It takes mom, dad, uncle, cousin, grand. It takes everybody to raise a kid. So I personally think it should be a sit down conversation that should be had. And if the guy say, look, get an abort, and she decides to go against it, I feel like you shouldn't put my man on child support because he told you, look now, I ain't gonna be there. So don't that's my opinion. That's my opinion. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
in
And
a
I'm sticking
perfect
with it.
world.
I just think like two adults should have that conversation, and if not that, perhaps we can consider adoption or something like that. But it's a slippery slope. But like I said, it starts from you picking the wrong person to sleep with. That's where it starts from.
Yeah. First of all, the action is the conversation. Like, to make a
Mm.
child, you have to actually, you
Hmm.
know, you knew what you were
Conceive.
doing.
Action. Yeah,
So
yeah.
after this, like after the consequence comes, ain't no
Ain't no
question.
talking. Yeah,
And
I
let's
feel
be
you.
honest. Yes, a woman opens her legs, but the man decides whether it happens or not. In the
Come
end of
on,
the day,
somebody.
That is
because
Right.
true.
No
a
pun intended.
woman could obviously not want for that to happen, but
That's true.
if a man doesn't pull out,
Shooting
then
for
it's
the
gonna happen.
stars. Yeah,
That's facts. Yeah.
So,
So
in that sense, I don't agree. Men should definitely be held accountable. You
Well, we
100%
not
made
we
that
not
choice.
see how y'all see how they flip it. We're not talking about accountability. We talking about does the man have a say so in whether his child should be born or not when y'all trying to abort. Now we talking
Well,
about the man
my
having
opinion,
accountability.
I kind of am going to avoid your whole question because I don't feel like there's a choice, period. Your choice was having sex and now it's happening.
that's true. That's true.
So I don't feel like
see,
either one has a say so.
I agree with Grace too, and Kishana, you essentially said the same thing. Like that should have been decided before, bedroom activity, whatever. But the thing is, women do get the choice. Well, now the rules has changed, but they did have that choice once she became pregnant. So the way I kind of see it is like, okay, a man and a woman, they're together, they make choices, they're going along life, like you follow along a little timeline, right? Like they're making choices together, together, together. The moment the woman's pregnant, the man no longer has any choice. And I'm just like, how did
Seems
that
to how
happen?
y'all go.
Now, I was talking with somebody about this the other day, and she was telling me the reason why that happens is because women bear the brunt of the burden of
Physically,
pregnancy.
absolutely.
So
Yeah,
obviously, there's no doubt they carry the child, the complications that they go through. The
yeah.
men, don't go through that. So I get
And like
that.
the first 2-3 months at least. Yeah,
Yeah. So I get that side of it. But I still feel it took two of them to do it. The man should have a say. But there's that term, my body, my choice, right? My body, my choice. Recently, I've heard, and I think it even came from like a Dave Chappelle special, but there's guys talking about my money, my choice. So in the
yeah.
scenario we was talking about, they're like, hey, look, I told you that I'm not ready to be a father. I don't want to be involved. why should I have to pay if I've said that? So I just bring that up because it's something that's going on, but not necessarily saying I agree with it, but that is something that men think about.
Yeah, and just to tag on to that, I think it goes back to Grace said it a lot earlier though. It goes back to that choice. I mean, it goes back to the choice of women and who they choose to sleep with. Like, I mean, you have to know as a woman, as a man too, but you especially have to know because you know as your body, and that's just how it was made. That's just how God made it. If you look at both of the, the curses that was brought down, from the Garden of Eden, the curse of man is really kind of specific to work and the labor and the thorns and the thistles and the blah blah blah. It goes on and that. And then if you look at all the woman's curses, it's all about pregnancies and she's gonna have childbirth pains and it's all that kind of stuff. So it just shows an importance that is placed in both genders' roles. So it's like when you're getting into that realm in terms of sleeping with, yes, both people have to definitely be conscious. And as Christians, of course, we shouldn't even be getting there, honestly, because I'm just going past that, honestly, real quick. But if you once you get to that point, it's definitely um a big decision when it comes to a woman in terms of going to those things, and it goes back to who you decide to sleep with. DJ said it earlier. I mean, it's a huge subject. I'm just, I know we get into the hot stuff, but
so Ludi, if you have a couple who comes in, right, and the wife doesn't want to have the baby, but the husband wants to continue on, like professionally, like what advice do you give this couple where the wife wants to end it, but the husband wants to continue?
They should go to counseling. That's out of my yeah, that's out of my jurisdiction. They
Wheelhouse. Yeah,
they
yeah.
should go to counseling because that's a discussion that they need to have with themselves. As a provider, what I would tell them, you guys should take some time and discuss it as a couple and come up with a decision that suit your family best. But yeah, counseling definitely.
Ludi, and mess around and have the husband and the wife calling her arguing about.
What you gonna
I
say?
just
Whose side
wanted
you on?
to bring some corrections with something that Grace says. Grace says abortion is killing. When in the with the medical term, I know most of the population when they hear abortion, they automatically think it's an induced abortion, which means that you force it to happen. But in the medical term, when we use abortion, there's different type of abortion. Miscarriage is part of an abortion. So if a woman miscarried in the medical term is still considered an abortion, it's considered maybe it's there's different types. So when somebody say abortion, it's not automatically induced abortion. Sometimes abortion happens because somebody lost the baby, but the umbrella term is abortion. It's not. I don't know if you guys see what I'm saying. So
Yeah,
Yes.
be
yeah.
careful when somebody else says it to not automatically think, okay, yeah, she had an abortion. So just keep that in
Makes
mind
sense.
when you guys
Thank
have
you.
that discussion.
So what are y'all thoughts on, like, now as we're seeing some doctors making like abortion medication available for at-home use? Like, do y'all think like that would be a safe practice or something that, like, other practices or other professionals should adopt?
There was always medical abortion. There was always pills. That's not something that's new.
Hmm.
What plan
Yeah,
B?
there's different type of abortion. There's surgical abortion, and there's medical abortion, which the medical one is the one where you take the pills, and that's always been available. That's not something that's new. You do require follow up after you take the medicine, but that's something that's always been there. It's not new.
But I mean, does it change now, being that like you can't really see the doctor about abortion specifically? Like, I don't know the technical ramifications around it. Like, if it's just about the procedure, or if the conversations are still, being able to have for prescriptions or what have you, or is it now like the doctor can only write you a script, don't ask me no questions, and best of luck?
I mean, I think as a doctor, if you do that, you abandon your duty, to keep your patient safe. You can't just give somebody a prescription. Even though after you take the medicine, there still need to be follow up that's done to make sure that, the patient, everything went how it's supposed to, to happen, and then make sure that you follow up with the patient to make sure that they safe and they're doing okay. I don't think you can just give somebody an abortion pill and say, okay, good luck.
Yeah.
Because there needs to be follow-up that needs to be done to make sure that the uterus is empty on a medical term, to make sure that there's no viable
Makes
baby
sense.
anymore. So
Yeah.
I think as a doctor, if you're doing that, you're doing yourself a disservice, and you're also doing your patients a disservice as well.
Right. Cool.
All right. So I mean, the last thing I wanted to ask y'all, like, as we start to wrap it up, is like, I mean, we talked about, like, just the professional stance and like the federal stance, but like, I mean, I think it's probably clear as far as like where the Bible stance is, but is there any room, like, from a Christian perspective, where where it would be okay, like where it would be acceptable, as far as something that God would consider from like a Christian aspect for any scenario whatsoever?
You mean as far as God would consider any kind of abortion? You mean?
Like, if there's any scenario whatsoever that may be permissible from a Christian perspective when we're talking about the eyes of God.
I mean, I'm not God, so I can't tell him what he can accept or what he can't. But I mean, the Bible is pretty simple and pretty clear on what it says. I mean, it says "Thou shalt not kill." It doesn't really get in the specifics of the gray areas or anything like that. So I'm just gonna kind of leave it with that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not pro. I'm not really in the middle. I'm just saying that there's mothers out there that can't have kids, and they would
100%.
love to have a baby. It doesn't matter if it's theirs; they will raise it as their child. So that's something to remember. You may not be at that mental state to take care of a child, but there's mothers and fathers that want to take care of the child. So I don't think there's any gray area where you can kill a child in the Bible. That's my.
Well, we're all God's children, so man never and never will have the authority to destroy life.
Great.
Simple and plain. Yeah, biblically speaking, I don't think there's any room for that. But ultimately, God gives us free will, as Grace reminded us earlier. So people have to make their own decisions and also live with the consequences. You're free to make your own decisions. You're not free from the consequences of the decision. So
100%.
whatever that is, you just make sure you think through it thoroughly, because some decisions you can't undo.
Yeah, no, just tap onto that. Every decision is huge, as you said it earlier. You know what I'm saying? Put God into it. That's really the best way I could say. You got to put God into your decision, and that's the only way you're going to come out on the right end of that.
Go for it, Louis. There's your space. We ain't gonna jump over
I
you.
agree with what the guys were saying. I agree.
Okay. All right. Keyshawn, any closing thoughts, man?
Before we wrap,
I was gonna say as well. I agree. I think what David said was on point.
what about my point? You didn't like my point?
Yeah, hold that one.
Yeah, hold it for it.
I'm just joking.
Hey, man. Well, this has been another tantalizing episode of the Hold Your Point podcast. We are the Hold Your Point podcast crew. And, as the world turns, man, there'll be something new in the headlines each and every day. We just, pray that everybody proceeds with caution in this ever-changing world. Don't do anything without God first, man. And, like and subscribe wherever you see us. YouTube, Spotify, Apple, all that good stuff, man, wherever you get your podcast from. And until next time, we are out of here.
Yes, sir.